Uh, Good evening and welcome to today's live session. So this is session 10 for week 10. I'll wait for some more time, see if anyone joins and then start today's session. Okay, so we'll start the session for today. No learners have joined so far, but we'll start the session anyway. So, welcome to week 10 of the live sessions. So, this week cover some practice questions related to whatever that has been covered so far in week 10 of lectures. So, this week basically covers the foundational aspects of project planning, uh, and it has a lecture on fundamentals of project planning, which introduces the core principles of project planning, emphasizing uh, on how clear objectives of projects are defined, how are identified, how to set timelines, things like that. The next lecture be on formulating projects. So this builds upon planning fundamentals, focusing on formulation stage where ideas are developed into actionable project plans, which includes method for articulating goal, designing project scopes, and preparing detailed proposals. And then there is a lecture on project monitoring and management. This covers techniques for tracking the progress of ongoing projects, emphasizing on monitoring systems that ensure that projects stay on track in time, in terms of time, budget, quality, etc. And it also introduces some management tools that facilitate uh, project management and some problem solving and adaptive decision making throughout the project's life cycle. Then there is a lecture on essentials of infrastructure and engineering design, which goes into details about the technical aspects of designing infrastructure projects, highlighting engineering principles and design considerations that ensure functionality, safety, and sustainability in the projects. And the last lecture is on managing transmunicipal and large projects, which focuses on complexities of managing large-scale projects that either span multiple municipalities or across large regions. So it examines coordination mechanisms which enable a project to function across diverse stakeholders, across diverse regulatory frameworks, and how to deal with logistical challenges to provide strategies for successful project implementation and governance in complex environments. So this is what has been covered so far in week 10 of lectures, and now we look at some uh, practice problems related to this week of lectures. So the first practice question for this week is a typical project execution follows the stage of, and then you have several options: control, planning, closure, and definition. Okay, so it is basically talking about the project life cycle and the different key phases of the life cycle, and then it is asking you that execution stage follows which stage. So it's basically asking that which stage comes before the execution stage. So you might have seen these both uh, figures or diagrams which represent project life cycle or the different stages of the project. So typically a project life cycle comprises of 5 key phases, which includes project initiation or project definition, project planning, project execution, monitoring and control, and finally the project closure. So basically, these are all key parts of the project which follow one another, and it starts from the initiating or project definition phase, then goes on to planning, then goes on to execution, then to monitoring and control, and finally to closing process or project closure. So we can just quickly look at each of these stages. So the first is project initiation or definition of the project. So at this stage, what we do is that we define the project at a high level and assess its feasibility. So this phase focuses on understanding the project's key goals, the scope of the project, and the key stakeholders that are involved. And the key activities in this phase include first developing a business case or a project proposal, then identifying the project objectives, the key stakeholders, and the constraints of the project, then doing a feasibility study or a cost benefit analysis, then creating a project charter which formally authorizes the project, and finally securing initial approvals and funding for the project. So this is the initiation or definition of the project. Then comes the second stage, which is the project planning. So in this stage, we develop a detailed roadmap to guide the execution and control of the project. So this phase includes developing things like defining the deliverables, defining the timelines, resources, and risk management plans. So during this stage, we define the scope of the project and we create a work breakdown structure in which we divide each of the tasks associated with the project, and then we set measurable objectives, and we also create a project schedule. Then we identify the required resources such as personnel, materials, equipment, etc. And then we also establish a budget and a financial plan for the project. So after this, sometimes we also set up risk management communication system and quality management plans, and to monitor all of these, we even set up key performance indicators and benchmarks for the project. Then comes the execution stage. So in this stage, we implement the project plan by executing all the tasks that are defined in the planning phase, and resources are allocated and team members begin working on the deliverables. So during this phase, we largely focus on coordinating and managing the resources, including assigning tasks to particular team members, and we focus on communicating with the stakeholders and ensuring that all the team members are collaborating efficiently for the project to execute, and we focus on executing the project deliverables as per the plan. Then comes the monitoring and control phase. So execution and monitoring and control largely go on side by side. So while the execution, we also continuously monitor and control the key aspects of the project. So during this phase, we continuously track and measure project performance to ensure alignment with the project plan, and this phase helps to identify and correct any deviations or anything which is not happening uh, according to the project plan, and this then helps us to keep the project on track. This includes things like monitoring the progress of the project and activities according to the performance metrics, then tracking expenses and ensuring that the project stays within budget, then identifying and managing any risks and any issues if they arise, implementing changes or implementing any corrective measures to address any kind of deviations if they occur, and regularly reporting to stakeholders while verifying the deliverables to ensure that they meet quality standards. Then finally comes the stage of project closure. So at this stage, we conclude the project by finalizing all the deliverables and closing the contracts, and finally assessing the overall project performance. So during this stage, we complete all the project work and deliver the final product or service to the client or the person to whom the project is to be delivered. Uh, we also often conduct a final review to evaluate the project success against its objectives or what we set out to do, and we close all project contracts and ensure that payments have been settled, and we also document lessons learned during this project, and we add that to the project closure report. So each phase uh, thus of the project's life cycle is crucial to ensuring that the project is completed successfully in time. And this is basically the key steps or key stages, and this these diagrams basically tell you that which steps come first and then which step is followed by the uh, prior project phase. So I hope it is quite clear what this question is asking. Ahead to the next question. So the next question is pre-feasibility is a part of what? And then you have several options: urban development plan, impact assessment, enforcement and control, and detailed project report or early. So I'll first introduce what all these uh, reports or things are that are mentioned in the options. So first, a DPR. So a DPR is a comprehensive document that outlines the entire scope, design, feasibility, cost, and implementation plan of a project. So it typically includes technical, economic, financial, environmental, and legal assessment related to any project, and it helps the stakeholders to understand the project's objective, the timeline of the project, key risks associated with it, and what are the expected outcomes of the project. So it also includes detailed designs, cost estimates, procurement plans, and resources required for the execution of the project. And this kind of a document is often used in infrastructure projects, as it serves as a blueprint that guides project execution from project's conception to completion, ensuring that all necessary details are considered and accounted for before the project even starts. Then you have a urban development plan. So urban development plan is basically a statutory document that is prepared to provide necessary details and intended actions in form of strategies and physical proposals for various policies given in the perspective plan or in the regional plan, depending upon the economic and social needs and aspirations of the people and available resources and priorities of the urban area. So it is basically a strategic blueprint that is used by cities and regions to manage urban growth, uh, urban land use, infrastructure development projects, and also installation of public services. It addresses various aspects like zoning, transportation networks, housing, environmental sustainability, and economic development. So this kind of plan sets long-term goals and guidelines for future urban expansion, for maybe city revitalization, etc., ensuring that urban growth occurs in an organized and sustainable manner. Urban development plans aim to balance economic development with social equity and environmental protection, and aim to help cities adapt to population changes and other challenges that the city might be facing uh, with, with respect to urban development. So that is what an urban development plan is. Then you have impact assessments. So impact assessments are basically carried out to assess the consequences of individual projects, and this is basically a systematic process of evaluating potential environmental or social or economic or health effects of a proposed project or a proposed policy, a proposed program. So it is basically conducted to identify the positive and negative consequences before the implementation of the particular project, and it helps the decision makers to identify and mitigate any risks if they might occur due to implementation of the project, and strategize to maximize the benefits from a project. So impact assessment can include several things, and one example is the environmental impact assessments or EIA, or social impact assessment or SIA, and so these are some examples which help assess whether or what kind of impact the project will have either on the environment in case of EIA or on the community in terms of social aspects in the case of SIA. So the goal of impact assessments is to inform and improve the project by ensuring that all potential impacts are considered and that stakeholders are consulted and adverse effects of the project are minimized or managed abroad. That is what impact assessments are. Then finally, there are enforcement and control. So, enforcement and control refers to basically regulatory mechanisms and activities that are implemented or carried out during or after the execution project to ensure compliance with the laws, policies, and standards, particularly in case of urban planning and environmental protection. Uh, so, enforcement and control are largely used in urban context. So it may be it involves monitoring activities, inspections, and application of penalties for corrective action uh, when certain rules are violated or certain things are not abided by. In urban context, enforcement may even involve things like controlling land use, construction zone, zoning regulations, environmental laws, public health standards, etc. So, effective enforcement and control ensures that urban development aligns with the legal frameworks and reduces risks and maintain orders in city while protecting the interest of public and the environment. So, this is what each of these components are. Again, if you go back to the contents of a DPR, this you might have seen in the lectures that a DPR has 6 key components, and the first of this is the pre-feasibility study. So this includes an initial analysis that is conducted to determine whether a project is viable or whether it is worth pursuing or not. So it assesses key aspects like demand, available resources, preliminary costs, potential challenges and risks, etc. And this serves as a foundation for more detailed planning and helps stakeholders decide whether to proceed with the project or not. So it identifies critical factors that could influence success and provide a basic understanding of the project's technical, financial, and legal feasibility before committing significant resources to a full-scale DPR. Then the second portion is the detailed engineering design and specification. So this contains the designs and specifications in detail, which uh, also contains precise technical planning of a project's infrastructure or infrastructure systems. This includes creation of detailed drawings, architectural plans, structural calculations, mechanical and electrical systems design, and also material specifications. So these documents ensure that all aspects of the project are technically sound and align with the standards and codes and are also feasible to implement. The specifications outline uh, the specification in this section also outline the quality and type of material, equipment and methods also that are to be used, and it provides clear guide for contractors during construction or implementation of the project. Then another part of the DPR is the environmental and social assessment. So this contains assessments or assessment reports which include EIA, as we saw earlier, which examines effect on the environmental aspects, and sometimes even SIA, so which examines the impact of the project on social elements. And the aim of this part of the DPR is to identify negative impacts as early as possible and propose mitigation measures, ensuring that project is socially and environmentally responsible. Then another part of the DPR is the costing. So it involves estimating the total financial outlay that is required to complete the project, and it can include things like it include things involved in the direct costs such as material, labor, equipment, and services, and sometimes even indirect cost like the administrative expenses, contingencies, and taxes. Costing also considers the project's life cycle cost, including the maintenance and operation of the project, and uh, this basically provides a component for securing funding as it provides a clear understanding of the amount of investment required for the project and helps to prevent cost overruns during the implementation phase of the project. Then is the project implementation plan. So this outlines how the project will be executed from the start to the finish, and it includes timelines, milestones, and key deliverables for each phase of the project, including clear guidance on the execution of the project. So it details out tasks, resources, and responsibility of the project. And also the team members and contractors which are associated with each of the tasks, and it also outlines project resource procurement strategy, risk management measures, and quality control processes as well. Then the last is the financial assessment. So it involves analyzing the project's financial viability and sustainability, and includes projecting revenue schemes, analyzing cost, estimating return on investment or ROI, and basically determining that the project's funding structure, how it will be, and how the project will be made financially viable. So these are all the key components of the contents of a DPR. So I think from this it is quite clear what the answer to this question is, and it is also quite clear what different components this question is talking about. Okay, moving on to the next question. So next question asks that MS Project and Primavera are types of tools used in what? Then you have four options: project simulation, project management, data analysis, or project presentation. So MS Project and Primavera are both certain software that are used for project management, and this question basically alludes to all of the various tools and methods that have been discussed in the lectures, which can be used as tools for project management practice. So project management is basically the practice of leading, planning, executing, and monitoring project to achieve specific goal with the defined constraints. So it involves certain things like coordinating tasks, resource allocation, resource management, managing the stakeholders and timeline to ensure successful delivery of project's objective. So project managers use these kind of tools or methods to organize their work and monitor their work in order to mitigate risks and ensure that the project stays on track. So there are a number of tools that project managers can use, and these have been listed in the lecture. So the first includes a work plan. So a work plan is basically a detailed outline of all the tasks with their timeline, resources, and objectives that are necessary to complete the project. So it includes all key activities, their deadlines, and responsibilities, which provides basically a roadmap that guides the project teams through each phase. And this work plan then helps align the effort with the overall project goals, ensuring that each step is clearly defined and understood by all the stakeholders. Then you have bar charts. So bar charts are also known as Gantt charts. So it is basically a visual representation of the project schedule by displaying tasks along a timeline. Each task is represented by a bar, as you can see in this figure, and with the length of the bar, it indicates the duration of the tasks, and this type of charts are widely used to monitor the progress and track the deadlines of overlapping tasks in any project. These are useful tools for visualizing projects flow and enduring tasks that are and ensuring that tasks are completed on schedule. Uh, then you have network diagrams. So network diagram is basically graphical representation of a project's activities and their interdependencies of the different activities of the project, and it basically shows a logical flow of tasks illustrating how activities are linked to each other. And the two most common types of network diagrams which are used in project management practice are the CPM, or the critical path method, and the PERT, or the project evaluation and review technique. So CPM is a technique that is used to identify the longest sequence of dependent tasks in a project, and that longest sequence is called the critical path. So that basically calculates the minimum time that is required to complete any project by analyzing the sequence of critical activities, and it basically tells you that which is the critical path, and if there are any delays in the activities associated with the critical path, it can affect the timeline of the entire project. Next, you have the PERT chart. So it is basically a tool for estimating the time required to complete project activities, especially when some uncertainty exists related to the task. So it includes different kind of time estimates. So optimistic, most likely, and pessimistic time estimates, which helps to calculate expected duration for activities, and also helps to evaluate potential delays in project's timeline. Then you have uh, decomposition of activities. So this basically involves breaking down larger project deliverables into smaller and more manageable tasks or manageable activities, and this process is often part of creating a work breakdown structure, as we saw earlier, and it helps clarify the scope of work and makes planning and tracking uh, the project more efficient. So it ensures that every part of the project is covered and organized into actionable components. Then you have activity sequencing or scheduling. So activity sequencing involves Activity sequencing involves arranging project tasks in in a logical order in which they need to be completed, and basically scheduling then assigns the start and finish dates to each of these tasks. So this ensures that dependencies of different between different activities are respected, and then proper flow of the project and proper coordination is of the project is managed. Accurate sequencing can help to avoid any kind of delays and bottlenecks in a project. Then you have activity duration. So activity duration basically refers to the amount of time that is required to complete a specific task or activity within the project, and estimating accurate durations is crucial for effective scheduling and resource allocation. So, project managers usually use historical data or expert judgment to estimate uh, and forecast how long each activity is going to take, and this is also an essential part of project management. Uh, then you have the critical activities and critical paths. So it is again related to the critical path method, and these are those tasks that lie on the critical path of the project, and it is, as we saw earlier, it is the longest sequence of tasks that must be completed on time for the project to be finished by its deadline. So if any critical activity is delayed, the entire project will be delayed. So this aspect is basically associated with identifying the critical activities, which can then allow the project managers to prioritize these critical activities so that any disruptions or delays does not happen with the project. Then you have duration compression techniques. So these techniques are basically methods which are used to shorten the project schedule without altering the scope of the project. So two most common techniques which you might also have heard of are called crashing and fast tracking. So crashing is basically adding additional resources to the critical task. So it can be material resource or human resource which you add to the critical tasks in order to complete that task faster. And fast tracking is basically performing some tasks parallelly that were that may prior to this might have been scheduled to be done sequentially. So the project, if it is behind the schedule, that then it fast track to finish or complete a little earlier in order to meet the deadline of the project. Then you have use of certain software for uh, project management. So these are the two softwares that uh, this question is talking about, which is the MS project and Primavera. So MS project is basically a project management software that helps project managers to plan, execute and monitor the projects. It provides various features to task, schedule, for resource allocation, budget management, progress tracking, etc. It also supports Gantt charts, resource leveling, and many other project management techniques. And it helps the users to create comprehensive project plans and track performance. And then you have Primavera. Primavera is another project portfolio management software which is developed by Oracle, and this is designed for handling large and complex projects, particularly in industries like construction industry, engineering and infrastructure. And it helps you uh, to create advanced scheduling, risk analysis, resource management, and for collaboration among large project teams. So these are both very useful softwares which are often used by project managers. So I have linked the website for both of these softwares, and also I have linked introductory videos for those both of these software if you would like to learn these softwares or want to learn about them more. But essentially, I think it is quite clear what this question is talking about. This question.
So, good evening, ma'am. So, which software is good? MS project or like Primavera?
What?
Both. Like which software is good for? I mean, best for the project management.
They both are softwares for project management. I think it depends on what kind of project you are doing, or the level of the project, and which interface you are more comfortable with. You can see both, and you can accordingly decide which is more suited to your use.
Okay.
Moving on, the next question is, a turnkey contract is a type of asset creation, whether this is a true or a false statement. So, as we saw in different types of projects or different type of contracts our in the section where we learned about public-private partnership and how public-private partnership contracts are formulated, we learned about basically two types of contracts, but we didn't classify it then. So basically, there are two different types of asset, uh, uh, two different types of project contracts that are primarily used in projects that are related to urban planning or urban development. So these are asset creation contracts and service provision contracts. So the basic difference between an asset creation contract and a service provision contract is in the nature of the deliverable and the purpose of the contract. So an asset creation contract is basically the goal of this kind of project is to create an asset, uh, to construct or deliver a tangible asset such as an infrastructure or a building or an equipment or any physical object or value, and to deliver that to the client. So the deliverable is for the contractor for creating and delivering or constructing the specific asset that is owned by the client upon completion of the project. So in this case, upon completion of the project, the client typically owns the created asset, and the contractor's responsibility is to deliver the asset according to the agreed specification. So usually the duration in these kind of projects is often finite and ends once the asset is completed and handed over. Then there are service provision contracts. So the object of a service provision contract is to deliver a specific service rather than a physical product. So this can include things like providing urban services like solid waste management or public water drinking facilities, sometimes even maintenance services like for maintenance of public parks and things like that. So basically, in these type of contracts, the contractor is supposed to deliver an ongoing or sometimes even one-time service rather than a physical asset to the client. So there is no transfer of ownership or a tangible asset, rather than the client benefits from the contractor's services. So in these cases, service provision contracts may either be continuous in case of maintenance services, or one time in case of a specific project. So these are two different types of projects. So turnkey project, as you might have remembered, it is basically a public sector procurement model for any kind of infrastructure uh, or infrastructure facility. So the private contractor builds a facility for a fixed fee or a fixed rate or a total cost, and then the private contractor assumes all the risks involved in building or constructing the project during its design and construction phase. And after constructing the project, then the contractor then turns it over or hands it over to the public partner or the final client. This is also known as the design build kind of project, and ultimately, as at the end of the project, the contractor hands over a physical asset. So this is basically an asset creation type of contract. So there are several things like item rate contracts, lump sum contracts, and turnkey contracts, which are examples of asset creation contracts. And then management contracts, lease agreements, concessions, and direct private investments are some examples of service provision contracts. Another question, which is an example of identifying whether certain kind of contract is a asset creation or service provision contract, is this: that whether a boot contract is a type of service provision contract or not. So, build, own, operate, transfer, or boot contract is a type of asset creation contracts with elements of long-term service provision. But at the end of the project, again, a physical asset is transferred to the client or to the public body if it is a PPP model. So ultimately, that a boot type of contract is again a type of asset creation contract. So I hope it is quite clear that how you can differentiate between an asset creation type of contract or a service provision contract. This again, I have linked this so that you can remember that we learned about several type of contracts in the public-private partnership models, and can again refer back to the URDPFI guidelines if you want to read more about different kinds of contracts. Ahead. This question asks that what is sector integration, or what is it a principle of? So it asks sector integration is one of the principles of ULB finance, LIG housing, project development, or slum management. So we saw earlier that what is ULB financing, or how urban local bodies finance their projects. Then LIG housing also we read earlier that how projects related to LIG and EWS housing, how they are funded. We read about slum management also, that how slums are managed, and slum redevelopment projects, how they are managed and financed, things like that. This question is actually related to project development, or the principles of project development. So it contains 7 key principles which this question is talking about. So the first is sector integration. So sector integration is basically it involves ensuring that the project aligns with broad sectoral goals and policies which are there. So it emphasizes on the need for the project to fit within the context of related sectors such as maybe energy sector, transportation sector, or environmental management, or things like that. And sector integration basically fosters coordination among various government agencies and private stakeholders and their related sectors, uh, ensuring that the project complements the existing infrastructure and contributes to the overall development objectives while maximizing resource efficiency. So this helps to avoid sectoral silos and promotes holistic planning and enhancing the project's impact on economic growth and sustainability, while aligning with the key objectives of other. Then you have technical viability. So while uh, uh, developing any kind of project, we focus on technical viability, which assesses whether the project can be technically executed with available technology, with available expertise and resources or not. It includes evaluating the technical design, engineering solutions, construction methods, and also operational feasibility. So it helps us ensure that the project scope, design, and components are realistic and achievable and based on sound engineering principles. It also considers risks such as technical failures or supply chain issues, or maybe sometimes in the case of inadequate maintenance, how the project can be implemented and sustained effectively. Then you have financial sustainability and economic viability, which again focuses on financial sustainability of the project. Figuring out a model for the project which has a viable financial structure and will generate sufficient revenue or funding to cover the operational costs and maintenance in the long term. And basically, it looks at the economic resources associated with the project in a way that in terms of projects execution, implementation, and then operation over a long period of time, the project will be economically viable. Then you have environmental and social safeguards. So environmental and social safeguards ensure that a project complies with the regulatory requirements and minimizes the negative impact on environment and local communities. So these safeguards typically involve conducting EIAs and SIAs to identify the potential risks and develop mitigation strategies. Then you have institutional arrangements. So institutional arrangements basically define the role, responsibilities, and coordination mechanisms among different entities or different stakeholders that are involved in the project. So this can include government agencies, private contractors, regulatory bodies, even financial institutions who are funding or financing the project, things like that. So, effective institutional arrangement is essential to ensure smooth project execution with clear accountability and efficient decision making. Then you have legal and regulatory framework. So legal and regulatory framework establishes legal basis for the project, ensuring that it complies with all relevant laws, regulations, and standards. And it basically covers the contractual obligations between the stakeholders and dispute regulation mechanism. Then finally you have procurement. So it refers to the process of acquiring goods and services and materials, equipments, etc. That are necessary for the project. So effective procurement practices ensure that the project receives high quality input at competitive prices while maintaining transparency, fairness, and accountability in selection of suppliers and service providers. So it includes things like preparing tender documents, conducting bid evaluation, negotiating contracts, managing supplier relationship, things like that. So all these components collectively ensure that a project is well designed, economically viable, environmentally responsible, legally compliant, and also operationally efficient. So I think it is quite clear what project development principles are. This question is basically talking about the different project development principles. I hope it is quite clear. Next question. So this is again an example of similar question related to project development principle. This question is a true or false type of question, which is asking that the establishment of optimal and least cost design is part of technical viability analysis of the project, whether this is true or false. So as you can see, technical viability is part of project development principle, and again this question is also asking about the optimal and least cost design in assessing the technical viability. So these both options are critical concepts that evaluate that a project meets its objective effectively while paying attention to the cost of the project. So an optimal design is basically a kind of design which refers to creating a project that achieves the best possible performance in terms of technical specification, efficiency, and effectiveness. And in this case, the goal of the project is to optimize various parameters such as durability, functionality, sustainability, uh, and even long-term performance while considering factors such as resource utilization and the project's impact. So in case of optimal cost design, the focus is on overall long-term success of the project rather than just simply minimizing the upfront costs. Optimal design may sometimes involve higher initial investments, but ultimately it leads to better efficiency and reduced operational and maintenance cost and improved performance. Uh, while in least cost design method, uh, it largely focuses on minimizing the initial capital expenditure required to complete the project while also meeting basic technical requirements and standards. So in this case, the focus is primarily on budget constraint and affordability of the project, and this ensures that the project can be delivered within a specific budget, but it may lead to compromises on factors such as durability or efficiency and the long-term operational costs of the project. So these are both aspects related to the technical viability analysis of the project, and again that is related to the project development principles. Okay. On ahead, to the next question. So this question is asking about this is kind of a fill in the blanks kind of question, and you have to fill in the blanks for X, Y, Z in this statement, which says that project is a X set of interrelated tasks to be executed over a fixed Y and within certain Z and other limitations. So to solve this, you have to come back to this definition of a project, because this is related to the definition of a project. So a project is basically a planned set of interrelated tasks that have to be executed over a fixed period and within certain costs and other limitations. So this is what the definition of any project is. And this question is basically asking you about the definition of a project, and I think it is quite easily understandable that what these fill in the blanks. But okay, moving on ahead to question 7. This is the last question for today. So it is basically asking that choose the option which best describes the criteria for pre-qualification of contractors, and it has options: organizational structure, technical expertise, financial strength, or the last option is all of the above, or organizational, technical, and financial capacity all. So basically, you must have seen this in your lectures that there are two-stage evaluation for selection of contractors for any project. So this includes pre-qualification of contractors and post-qualification. So pre-qualification is a process that is conducted before the bidding process or the bidding phase to screen and shortlist the contractors who meet the minimum required criteria to participate in the bidding process. So for this phase, the goal is to ensure that only those contractors who have sufficient technical expertise and financial stability and relevant experience are allowed to submit the bid. So the pre-qualification stage focuses on determining the contractor's ability to perform the project based on past performance and available resources, and then we see all the aspects, the organization, technical and financial capacity of the contractors in order to ensure that they pre-qualify for the bidding phase. And the next phase is the post-qualification. So the post-qualification phase evaluates the contractor after the bids have been submitted, and it typically focuses on verifying that the winning bidder has based their proposal, or based on their proposal they offer the best price and technical efficiency while meeting all the necessary qualifications and capacities to execute the project. So I hope again this is quite clear what a pre-qualification evaluation is and what a post-qualification evaluation is, and what are the things we look for in each of the stages. This was the last question for today. Thank you for attending and listening to the practice problems. If you still have any doubts, please go ahead and ask. Do you have any questions or can we close the session for today?
No, no questions.
Okay, then we'll close the session for today. Thank you. And meet again next Tuesday.
Thank you. Thank you very much.